I'm Annie. Today I want to talk about how to cultivate NE, extroverted intuition. I have lead NE. So I had this thought the other day, what if somebody asked me how to cultivate NE? What would I say? And in that moment I was doing chores and I just wasn't in the right frame of mind to answer that question, and my immediate thought was, no, I can't do it. Too difficult. The reason is because I'm so close to NE, it's so natural and automatic for me that it's difficult to tell someone how to do it. It's like asking a fish what it's like to live in the water. The fish has always lived in the water. It doesn't know how to explain to you what it's like to live in the water. And that's kind of how NE is for me. But then not 2 days later, somebody in the Objective Personality Facebook group asked that exact question. How do you cultivate NE? On that day, I was in a different frame of mind and my brain was giving me the answers to how you might cultivate NE. So here are some suggestions. NE is about seeing connections everywhere, making associations, combining things in new ways to create new ideas. It's about allowing your imagination to free associate. If you're someone who doesn't have NE very dominant in your stack, maybe it's a shadow function or maybe it's your fourth function, you might have to very intentionally cultivate it with some kind of disciplined practice. It's probably not going to be enough to just think, oh, I wish I was better at NE. That's not going to do it. Just like with many things in life, you actually have to set aside time and have an intentional practice in order to cultivate different functions or, qualities in yourself. So I think that writing, fiction writing, is a good exercise. And I can imagine that if someone didn't have NE very dominant in their stack, that fiction writing would be a little mysterious and daunting. A good way to do that is with writing prompts. And so I did a quick search and this writing prompt website came up. I'll put the link to the one that I found in the description, but there's a whole lot of them. A quick search will bring a lot of information up. So the basic idea is that you read the prompt and you start from that point and write your story. The prompt will have just a few details and you take those details and combine them in different ways and allow the story to emerge. Today is April Fool's, and when I did that quick search and looked on the writing prompt site, the first prompt that came up was start a story with a big company pulling an April Fool's joke that goes horribly wrong. Companies actually do this. But you can imagine like a huge corporation, like, I don't know, Coca-Cola or something, thinking of sort of a PR stunt that's an April Fool's joke that could have unintended consequences and just go horribly wrong. So you would take that writing prompt and just, follow it wherever it goes. Use your imagination. Another idea is to write a story with another friend or a group of friends. So one person would write a sentence or a paragraph and then pass the story to the next person who would pick up from there and keep the story going. So it would just keep changing. People would keep adding sort of unexpected elements. It would be your responsibility when it's your turn to take those elements and find the connections and make new combinations and keep the story going or send it in a completely different direction for the next person. And if you start to get really good at this and feel really fluid with it, then you can actually do live improv, where you have two or more people just in the moment, a lot of play energy, tossing the ball back and forth, just inventing on the spot. That one is even hard for me. As strong as my NE is, I don't have a whole lot of play energy, so I'm not always that quick in the moment. I don't know if I'd be quick enough to be good at improv, but if I practiced it, I'm sure I could be. I think that appreciation is a really powerful tool. So another thing that you can do is consume improv and study it, but also appreciate it. Appreciate how fun it is. Appreciate how fun creativity and inventiveness is. Because I think that when we appreciate things, we get more of them. At least that's what it seems like to me. One of the things that I really love is discipline. I appreciate discipline. When I see it in someone else, I admire it and I stop and I notice how cool it is. And I notice how cool it is in myself, and therefore I get more of it. I think you can apply this to anything. Appreciate creativity more often. stop to smell the creativity, and maybe you will get more of it in your life. You'll start to understand what it is and maybe even get better at doing it yourself. The next suggestion I have, it might be a little out there for you. It might feel a little bit too NF, a little, woo-woo, kind of crazy. This is actually something that I did in high school. I've always daydreamed and imagined on my own. It's just something I naturally do. But I was in a creative writing class in high school. I went to a private high school that was a boarding school. I didn't actually live there, but you can get the picture. All of the teachers lived on campus. Many of the students lived on campus. It was in Sedona, Arizona. So for this writing exercise, we went to the teacher's house. We all found a comfortable spot in her living room, laying on couches, cushions, the floor, and she put on some music. It was didgeridoo music, which is very rhythmic and droning. The brief of the exercise was to just lay there and allow your imagination to go wherever it goes. When I get into that state, I don't feel like I'm doing it. I feel like I'm just observing it. The story or the fantasy or whatever is arising, and I'm noticing it and I'm appreciating it. So I don't really feel like I'm at the helm. That's sort of what NE feels like to me. I mean, these things are coming from inside of me, I suppose. My creativity comes from inside of me, but it almost feels like I'm observing it and I'm being open enough to allow it to arise. And I think that music can really help. I use music a lot. Really like binaural beats. So binaural, it's like binary, and aural, your ears. It means that the sounds are coming in both ears at a different time. And these binaural beats facilitate a change in your brainwave frequency. So you have like alpha, delta, theta, beta, and these different frequencies are conducive to certain activities. Like a certain frequency is really good for concentration. I think delta is when you're sleeping, in a deep sleep. I think alpha is like a relaxed alertness. So the quick definition of binaural beats, when I looked it up just now, is when you hear two tones, one in each ear, that are slightly different in frequency, your brain processes a beat at the difference of the frequency. This is called a binaural beat. So, dive into that. If you find that intriguing, you can consume that all you want. So another quick search tells me that theta is a good brainwave frequency for daydreaming. It says right here, theta is 4 to 8 hertz. It is seen in connection with creativity, intuition, daydreaming, and fantasizing, and is a repository for memories, emotions, and sensations. Theta waves are strong during internal focus, meditation, prayer, and spiritual awareness. So maybe if you find some binaural beats that are supposed to induce theta while you lay down and let your imagination run wild and do its thing, maybe that would be a good exercise for cultivating NE. I actually have an app on my phone that's called Brainwaves. It has a whole library of music that is supposed to be good for inducing different brainwave frequencies. I use this all the time for focus when I need to really, really concentrate. A lot of times when I'm doing my art, I'm listening to audiobooks, and if it's chopping wood or doing dishes or making artwork that I've made before and it's very routine, then I can listen to an audiobook. But if I have to do something that requires a lot of cognitive power and focus, then I have to listen to this concentration focus music. I don't have to, but it helps. An example is yesterday I made this dress here. It's like actually a really simple, just summer, comfortable dress for when it's hot outside. And it's very simple, but because I'm so bad at spatial relationships, it's actually very difficult for me. It's very draining to make a dress if I've never made it before. Then after I've made the dress, I can do it again over and over while I'm listening to an audiobook, and it's no big deal. Another idea for cultivating NE is to enjoy collaging. This is something I did a lot when I was younger, when magazines were more of a thing. I mean, now you can do a digital collage, or you can do it the old school way, which is collecting different images from magazines or old books or wherever and pasting them onto a page to just, make different fantasy worlds or to explore concepts. A lot of people find that relaxing and fun, but I think it also could potentially help you with NE to, build connections and just sort of free associate things together. Another thing you can do is mind mapping. You can do this digitally. There are a lot of great apps used for mind mapping, or you can do it old school on paper. I know a lot of people with Lead NE actually use mind mapping to help organize their thoughts, because the thoughts are they're all connected, but it's just this like swirl of too many possibilities. And sometimes if you have Lead NE, it's hard to think in a very linear way, like to write out your notes in an organized linear way. Like the old school note taking where you use like Roman numerals and letters, that's kind of hard for someone with Lead NE. But if you use a mind map, you can, sort of think and free associate while also putting your thoughts out in a concrete way. So I guess this would be a tip to explore that way of thinking, but also if you have NE and you just feel overwhelmed by the clutter of various thoughts in your head, mind mapping is a good way to get those thoughts outside of your head and put them concretely on a piece of paper so you can kind of see what the heck's going on. You can then start to untangle it. I have one more suggestion, and that is to understand literary appreciation. So you can read a book about literary appreciation or listen to a lecture online. This is something that I've always really enjoyed. Reading literature, the great works, or contemporary fiction, and understanding an academic criticism of that work. So you would be learning how to see the metaphors. Writing has so many metaphors in it. You want to notice them. I think a lot of works, you can read them and you might think that you're just seeing a bunch of sensory details. The writer is giving me, the apple cart turned over in the puddle. And you might be thinking, okay, so the apple cart literally just turned over in the puddle. But there could be a deeper meaning there. So when you study literary criticism, then you learn how to think that way, how to see what does the apple cart turning over in the puddle mean metaphorically. And I think you can just get in the habit of thinking that way and also really appreciate metaphors. I think they're so fun and delightful, and I think it's because I appreciate them so much that I see them everywhere. Everything is loaded with meaning. If I'm on a walk, I think one person going on the same walk who's maybe lead sensory would just notice sensory details, where I'm noticing the details, but I'm also putting them together and making concepts out of the sensory details that I'm seeing. And I think that's really enjoyable. I mean, this is just what I do on automatic. I love it. There's just so much rich meaning and story everywhere all around me. And that's my natural state. But I think that if it's not your natural state, you could also practice seeing the world that way and just appreciate and enjoy that all around you. But like I said, you gotta practice. I don't think it's enough to just wish. You have to create some sort of disciplined practice, really, in order to cultivate any aspect of yourself. So I hope that was helpful. I'm sure there are a lot of other ways to cultivate NE. Let me know what you think.